everybody. Matt Morrow, Lance Hansen here. We are going to go over a few things about the NAR lawsuit that's been rolling out in the paper. And although it is an ongoing thing, there's nothing quite resolved about it. It probably won't be for a long time. Let's just figure out where we are at. Now, Lance is, as you probably most know, that he is following it. He's involved, and hopefully he can shed some light on what's going on there and what it means in right now. So,
there's a trial that got finished. The jury found guilty, and promised a whole bunch of money and all that. That's obviously going to be appealed. There'll be lots of stuff about that. And so right off the bat, I think the first thing to understand is don't get panicked, don't get wound up. All of the headlines that you see about buyer brokerages down the tube, agents are going to run out of the business, that the real estate as we know it is over. Don't pay any attention to all that. That's headlines, and it's just like anything else. They're looking for something to print to make you open up the site and read their stories. So there was a verdict. And just to give you an idea of the monetary impact of this, the same attorney who had that first one and got that verdict, 30 minutes later, filed suit on 7 more brokerages.
Right.
So it's just a money grab. That's what this is about. We've got new ones actually just today. They filed in New York City and South Carolina. There's lawsuits there, and it'll just keep going.
What does this settlement mean for RE/MAX? We've all probably read that there was a $55 or $58 million settlement, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
What does that mean for RE/MAX, the franchise, moving forward? Are we completely out of the woods with that now, or are we immune to any further prosecution?
We will be once that is accepted by the judge.
Okay, it hasn't been accepted.
It hasn't been accepted by the judge. I thought it was actually going to be this week. Nothing happened. So there's going to be a time frame. If in fact they accept those settlements from RE/MAX and anywhere, if they accept those, then what that does is it puts us in a nationwide position of, it opens the class. And for our 2 companies, it opens the class for the whole nation. So anyone can join. This is how much money's in it, and you're welcome to reach in and get some, but nobody else can sue us.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So as far as how this affects your business now, we really, as someone who's out in the industry with you guys as well, we haven't seen a ton of changes or really much. I ran into a house the other day that was offering 2.5% commission as a buyer's, but it was Fannie Mae.
Yeah.
And that's pretty typical, I believe, of a Fannie Mae.
And we always have to be careful about numbers.
Right.
So we don't.
Right.
So we don't talk.
Well, that was
a specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I had a few agents reach out to me. Now, we've been going over exclusive buyer representation agreements for quite some time and how to include those into your business if you're not currently. This is what the form looks like. This will be necessary moving forward in the not too distant future.
Right. What you need to understand is that NAR has been for the last 6-8 months, almost a year now, has been strongly pushing the use of buyer's representation. And now the law in Iowa is being written right now to make it mandatory for every agent to sign buyer representation forms with every buyer. So it will be the law. There won't be any I don't want to, that kind of thing. And the buyer representation basically just sets up, it's a contract between you and the buyer, similar to what we do with the listing. Talks about, the basics. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. We agree to do that. And I get paid, and this is what I get paid.
Right.
And that's a real, narrow view, but that's kind of what it is.
Right. And as always, as far as your buyer's agents go, you'll have the freedom and flexibility just to set that to whatever you think that you're worth, or whatever you decide to work for. And in much of the same way you have the freedom to take listings at the
some of the things that need to happen now is you need to understand how to articulate your value. And I mean very clearly. like you do on a listing, you go in, you talk about your negotiating skills and your marketing skills and that kind of thing. You need to understand actually being a buyer's agent is really more complicated than being a listing agent. But you need to be able to express that and tell people what you do, how you do it, just all of that. So you need to be able to articulate that. You need to have buyers meetings. You need to have a sit down at some point. You need to have a sit down.
Those consultations are important, and I know a lot of you already have that in your playbook. To be able to articulate your value, I would even get to the point, if you haven't already, to write down what your minimum bar of service is going to be to the buyer. And there's all sorts of things that you can do. We're general contractors a lot, or at least we're very resourceful with general contractors. There's utility transfers that you can help buyers with. This is a good time, if you're a team leader or even an independent agent, to sit down and figure out exactly what you bring to the table, and maybe throw some things in that you're not doing now that you've always wanted to, and raise that bar, that level of service. Buyers are still going to want it. So that is the one thing that's not going to change. Now, as far as getting paid, hopefully you guys are still with us. I know attention spans are short these days, but
yeah, exactly.
As far as getting paid, if there is a form that you want to use, I think the important thing that Lance told me, and I'm going to try to tell you, is that when we're requesting money from the seller, as far as commissions go, it has to be requested from the buyer to the seller.
Yes.
Right? You want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah. The first thing, you have to be exclusive, and that's going to be mandatory. But now you have to be exclusive to do this. And then what you do is you have an amount of money that you and the buyer have agreed to. This is what you're going to get paid. And when you go to write an offer and submit with that offer, it's this form, which is a buyer's request to get paid. They're asking you as a buyer to pay their fee for having representation.
And I want to go over that. The verbiage is already pre-written, so it's just fill out the amounts, fill out the parties involved, dates of the transaction that it's referring back to. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it as far as the verbiage goes and how you want to read it out. Is this the form you would have us use also with Next Generation or some of the flat fee brokerages?
Every transaction that's out there, you use this, except for when you're doing a FSBO, and then you use non-represented.
Non-represented, okay.
You know, but this is the form, and what this does is, like, it either requests all of it, or if it's already offering some, then it requests the difference. So if they're offering, let's say it's 1% less than what you've agreed to as a buyer, the buyer is then asking the seller to give that other 1%, to take that full amount so that you get paid.
It's important to note that our exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, not that any of you would do this, but we can have, for arbitrary reasons, let's say 2.5%, we're getting paid on this, and the commission is already being offered at 2.5%, and you're double dipping, getting 5%.
Yeah.
We won't be doing that. So, but
Yeah,
these are forms that you're using. These two forms are probably the ones, these two forms here are probably the ones that people have been asking me about the most.
Yes.
So I want to get that out there today. And as this thing starts to evolve and change, no doubt we'll do some of these videos again to keep everybody in the know. There's a lot of people forecasting what this means in the future as far as our industry goes, and how we'll practice and how we'll share commissions. And, you know, right now you keep talking with your sellers the way that you are as far as what you're listing for and what you're going to be shared co-oping for. I think we do that pretty well, but Department of Justice.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things I want to make sure that when you're talking to sellers, that number one, you emphasize that commission is negotiable, not just the listing side, but the buyer side commission. If they're going to offer that, it's completely negotiable. So they can offer 0 or whatever. You need to also understand that the commission offered by the seller is to incentivize the buyer, not the agent, the buyer, because they're going to be owing a certain amount of money. And what you're doing is saying, we offer to pay part of or all your representative fee. And so that's how you go into cooperative commission, why it's important. It's not, do not say that an agent won't show the property. Do not, under any circumstances.
That's what kind of got, that
that's why
question
we're
is
here.
what got us in trouble in the first place.
Yes, and so you have to understand that commissions are separate. There's a listing commission, there's a buyer's commission, and the end goal of Department of Justice is to separate those completely. And so this will be the first step of getting that done little by little. And we'll update you as things go on. If you got questions, call me. I seem like I'm just like daily, I'm in this reading articles and talking about stuff. So
I want to, again, we don't want to get into forecasting,
yeah.
But, I've been around a little while and I've seen different markets and cycles to where the seller and the buyers play in the market was pretty even. Obviously, we've seen seller markets where buyers have to overpay, limited inventory, but I've also seen the abundance of listings and huge layoffs.
Yeah.
And having a buyer was just gold. Like plenty of listings going around, not enough buyers. I've fortunately been in those markets too. And you might find out in those markets as well as when they flip and that commission being offered to a buyer's agent, if any, ebbs and flows a little bit based on the availability of buyers in the market. You may find yourself getting actually a lot more for your buyer in the future if it's ever a buyer's market. I could see that.
Yes.
And for now, when this totally flips, if it totally flips, there's a chance that we could go and negotiate that straight with the seller.
Yeah, and this is all just relax. There's not any monster changes that are coming in. These are fairly minor. There's a direction we need to go and we need to get there. And little by little, this will all process. We'll stay ahead. We'll be on top of it. We'll make sure that whenever something comes out that has some kind of basis to it, that we come back to you and update you. In the meantime, stay away from the headlines. All it is just people trying to sell news articles.
Right. If there's questions that you have straight away that need to be answered right now that weren't answered, feel free to shoot us a message and we'll try to get to it, not only directly to you so you're not waiting on the answer, but it'll give us some ideas next time we do the video, what we might be able to touch as well.
Yep.
That sound good? Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks. See ya.